Finally, continuing on, the secular people point out Genesis chapter 7:7 and 7:13. Noah and his family and people enter the ark, and they enter the ark again with a question mark. But what they're not pointing out is that they're saying the same thing, but with more detail. Then they try to point out Genesis chapter 11 verses 7 through 9 that God shows discord. But this is not so, because this is talking about the Tower of Babel, that God didn't want them to waste their time building this tower up to heaven. So he changes everybody's language. That's why everybody in the world's got a different language. And that's what stopped them from building it, because nobody can understand each other. Then they try to confuse you more by saying Proverbs that Solomon wrote by speakers of truth and parables, chapter 25 verse 1. But let's go to chapter 6 verse 16 through 19. Then they try to contradict by twisting God's truth, saying that he hates anyone who sows discord, but mainly saying that God hates 7 things, which are a proud look, a lying tongue, and a hands that shed innocent blood, an evil imagination, a person that causes trouble, a false witness, and causes arguments among brethren and sistren of the Lord. Then the atheists will point out Genesis chapter 11 verse 9. At Babel the Lord confused the language of the whole world. Which anyone knows, if anybody speaks any kind of language to us that we don't understand, it's going to be confusing. And yet again they would point out in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 33. Paul says that God is not an author of confusion. Author means writer. Now I'm going to reread it with the meaning. Paul says that God is not a writer of confusion, meaning he could cause confusion, he just don't write about it like he wrote the 10 Commandments. And they will show you Genesis chapter 11 verse 12 and Luke chapter 3 verse 36. And they will mainly say who's the real dad of Shelah, Pharesh or Canaan. But Genesis doesn't say Shelah, it says Salah, meaning sprout. And Shelah means please, be still, rest.